This is Dina Buck with the Integrated Training Collaborative at the Partnership for People with Disabilities, and I'm so glad that you're joining me for today's webinar, which is called Learn the Signs, Act Early, the CDC's new milestones tracker. There's an app for that. How can I use it? I am really excited to have this chance to be with you to tell you a little bit more about a new tool and a resource that the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention has made available for us to use in our work in early intervention, although I hope we might have some other folks joining us too who come from different walks of life. But I'm really grateful that I'm joined today by 4 colleagues who are wearing a little bit different hats, each of them, to tell you a little bit more about how they have they've tried the app out and they've been playing with it a little bit, and they want to tell you a little bit about their observations about it and some ways that they might be able to use it in their work. So they will introduce themselves a little bit more as they go along and tell you a little bit about the ways they see the app might be useful. But I just want to tell you in a nutshell who they are, so you'll get to be ready for their ideas. So I'm joined today, actually here in the room with me, Pam Booker, who is a wonderful early childhood person and colleague from a really long time ago, and continues to be a great colleague here at the Partnership for People with Disabilities, and has a really strong background in early childhood and early childhood special ed, including working in the child care settings for the last 7 years with the Infant Toddler Specialist Network. Jackie Robinson-Brock is here with us also, and she has most recently worked as the director for Project SEED, for those of you who might have had some work with interactions with her in that project, working also directly with child care providers related to social and emotional development. And she is now serving with a variety of different projects, but also including with our Project Lend here at VCU. She also is the mom to a little one who's 9 months old, which I can't believe. So she's wearing a very different hat looking at the app. Talisha Woodfin is a wonderful member of the Part C office's monitoring team, and so she has a young one at her home also, and so puts that hat on as she looked at our app and brings a very different perspective with that role, as also working in the Part C office. And then last but not least, Courtney Pugh comes from Roanoke, actually, as part of the team at the Parent Education Advocacy Training Center, or PEDC, as their early childhood representative. So she's a parent and has been through the early intervention system and also comes in contact with families on a regular basis. So they are bringing their ideas and perspectives from very different a lens, and so we'll look forward to their ideas about the app when we get to that as we talk today. So anyway, if you haven't had a chance yet to download the app, would love for you to do that, whether you have an app, an Android or an Apple phone. If you just go to whatever store you do to download apps, you were sent the information already when you signed up for the webinar, but if you just search your Apple Store or your Android process to just look for the CDC Milestones Tracker and download that, that'll be great because we're going to look at it together. Okay. All right, this is our crew. These are the little bit bigger pictures of them, so that's who everybody is. All right, this is me. So I'm Dina Buck. I work again here at the Partnership for People with Disabilities, but one of the most fun things that I get to do is serve as the Act Early Ambassador for Virginia from the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. So if you've ever seen me at a conference when I'm doing this job, I stand and hawk these things and show these resources and materials to people. I joke and say that I have a crown, but I don't have a sash, and I don't get to park anywhere in DC for free as an ambassador, but I sure do like the opportunity to tell people about these materials and resources. And I've been doing this since 2012 as part of my job, and I'm really excited about how it interfaces with my work at the partnership, most specifically my work related to the work of the Integrated Training Collaborative with the Part C office and helping with their professional development. That to me is the way that this is the best connection. Anyway, so in general, the Learn the Signs Act Early campaign is a public health campaign to help families and caregivers know the signs of typical and atypical development and to act early when they have concerns about development. One thing that has just been the most fascinating thing for me this week is that I have been working with some undergraduate students here at VCU on a project. And I've been working with them to help us think about some resources for early intervention providers. But really, they had a hard time understanding what we did in early intervention in general. And when we backed the train up, it came around to really, they were of the impression that kids didn't really do a whole lot before they turned 3. And the more we talked to them, it was just absolutely fascinating, the whole idea about what is typical development, when do kids do things, when do they learn how to walk, when do they talk. There is a lot of work for us all to do in helping people understand when do these things happen for young children, and the really important role that families and caregivers play in helping identify those concerns and help equip children with the skills that they need to learn those skills and move along. So anyway, you guys know this as early intervention providers, but for me it's been continued these reminders that there are many people that we come in contact with and in our worlds for whom this is not information that they know. So the more tools we have in our toolkit, including an app that would help families and caregivers know what is typical development and how to speak up if they have concerns, those are great things, I think, for us to make, at least we know they're available, and if we choose to use them and make them available to families, the better. So I guess I just wanted to know if those of you who are on the phone, if you have ever heard of or if you have ever used any of the campaign resources from the Learn the Signs Act Early campaign. And so over here, under where we kind of checked over, underneath your name, there's a place, there's the fourth box over is a little checkbox, and you can either do yes or no. So if you can just do that for me, just say yes or no, whether you have ever heard of or used the Learn the Signs Act Early campaign materials and resources. I'm just curious of the group we have on the phone with us today. Okay, good. So Rosemary said she's seen some materials through the CDC flyers, which is wonderful. Well, excellent. So maybe, Jeannie, if you can publish our answer for us. So it looks like some of the folks who are on the call with us have some exposure and some have learned about some of these resources, and some haven't. So this is great. This will be a wonderful opportunity for us to learn together. Thank you guys for doing that. Well, here's our plan for today. We're going to talk the most about the Milestones Tracker, and I'm going to get some feedback from some real users. I think I told you about that, which is probably the most fun that we're going to do. I do want to just give you a quick picture of a couple of other Learn the Signs Act Early resources, and then we wanted to make sure we had enough time for you guys to help me think about other ways you might be able to use these in your work. So I think I told you this at the beginning, that again the whole goal of the Learn the Signs Act Early campaign is to make sure that families have access to information and providers have access to information that is research-based, that helps support developmental monitoring. And it goes from birth to age 5 years. So while our focus in early intervention is birth to 3, it's important, I think, for you guys to remember that the folks that you maybe partner with in your community who serve children up to 5, that these campaigns resources go all the way to 5. That really the goal, of course, is that we want to help support families and caregivers as they celebrate the milestones that children accomplish, that what's coming next is really important and how they can be helpful in making those things happen for children. but also the messaging is very clear about what to do when there is a developmental concern. We know that we miss children, that there are children that don't come into our Part C system as timely as we would like, that there are children that we continue to meet and say, where has this child been, that we want to have that happen less and less. So the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention has been working on this app for about 3 years, and I want to give great kudos to Virginia and David Mills and the Part C office, because while they knew that this app was in development, our state actually went ahead and built an app platform based on the CDC's materials. So some of you may have already been using some type of a tool like this that was developed in Virginia. So we knew that this was coming, but ours was, we wanted something already. So I just wanted you to know that we're a leader in Virginia. So now the official one is out and it's available. It was just launched at the end of October. It has been downloaded 40,000 times, which I think is pretty cool. That was what I learned on my call last week. So if you have not had a chance to go and download it yet, go ahead and do that now. It just takes about 20 seconds to download. If you don't have a phone that is able to do that, you can go right to the website link that's here on the slide, cdc.gov/milestone tracker, and that will take you just to a website where you can see the pages. We have also in your PowerPoints here just given you slide shots of all the pages that we're going to be talking about, which are the key pages of the app. So don't worry that you're going to miss something by not having the app downloaded, but if you do want to play with it, it's fun, and it would be fun to have it open while we're talking. So it's up to you completely how you want to process this. Okay? All right. So if you open the app, you'll see that the front page has this really cute baby, and it has the key phrase, milestone tracker because milestones matter. And that really is kind of the theme of the app and our work that we do with young families and families of young children. There are a couple of things that we want to make sure people know, that it's free and there are no ads. Which is really important. If you ever download apps and you're aggravated to death that there are tons of ads and you have to pass over and whatnot, that's not the case with this. It's available in iPhone and Android. It is in development to be in Spanish, but the Spanish version is, while it's under development, it is actually going to be in a completely different format, so that it is going to have different versions to have a more culturally responsive capacity, and it will also have the ability to translate the forms that go to physicians back into English. So if the family speaks Spanish, the checklist and the tools will be in Spanish, but should the family want to then shoot the information, which is an opportunity in this app, to send the information to their physician and they would like that to be in English, the app will be able to do that. So it has the opportunity to be translated. So that's taken longer to develop. So that's kind of cool. So this is the front page. So if you're online, you can see that. One of the things that's kind of fun is that you can add multiple children. So if you have done this, you see that you can have multiple kids loaded in there. It's kind of tailored to match. So you can have different colors for different children. So I actually I added my children. Now, and those of you who know me know that my children are grown. They're 24 and 28, so 23 and 28. So when it pops up and says Emma is due for her well child checkup, so I added it based on her birthday, but not her birth year. Of course, I had to change the birth year. So I've been getting these things based on how the app works to me to test it. And it has really been fun to see how the app works. So my Emma is in the 40,000 and my Annie are in the 40,000 kids. So one other group has decided they are going to use this. The teacher is using this to add all the kids in their classroom so that they can put in developmental information that they notice with all the children in their classroom, which you're welcome to do. That's something that someone else was choosing to use it for. You are allowed to, you can then switch between the different children's pages very quickly. You can click on and say, oh, I just noticed that he did this, and I want to mark that that's a new skill, because they're color-coded and it's pretty easy to flip between child. So anyway, that feature I really liked as a user. So and you can add as many kids as you want and track them all in one place. So when you're on the home screen, these are the categories that you can choose from. There's milestone checklists, when to act early, tips and activities, there's a quick review, and then your summary of your child and appointments. So these are the kind of categories you can choose from to navigate within the app. Just like any app, you could choose different things. So I'm just going to kind of show you a couple of the key things under each one. Okay. So under the milestones checklist, one of the things that's really nice is they have a video or a photo of almost every milestone. So why would that be nice to be able to have a video or a photo? You can put that in the chat. Why would it be nice to be able to have a video or a photo? How might you use that in your work, either with a team or with a family? Thinking about at screening or at ASP, where in your work? Aha! Someone who has a family that has a hard time reading. Perfect. That's a great one. All right, looks like somebody else is typing, so I'll give them a minute. Oh, for new providers, excellent, great. Yes. Yes, so families know what we're talking about. Exactly, right. So sometimes when you say, is he walking, and mom thinks walking is cruising around the couch, it may be that we're just using a different word. So Courtney says it's a great visual tool to see it in action, which is perfect. I like Talicia's, because who doesn't like a video of a baby? That's exactly right, because who doesn't like a video of a baby? Love it. One other thing that's really nice is that you can say the child's doing it, they're not doing it yet, or I'm not sure. I like the not sure for our work too, because the family could even say to you, I'm not sure. I saw this, but I'm not sure. When you come to see them the next time, to say, I'm not sure. Is this what they're talking about? Is this what you were talking about? Because this is what he's doing now. And you can write notes. That's the thing I like too, is you can say, I noticed he's doing this when he does his bath, but I don't think he's doing this when he sits in his high chair. Or he really hates sitting in his car seat, but he sits okay in his high chair. But I'm not sure what the difference is. So that's the kind of thing that's really nice with the milestones checklist, is that you can write notes there. So when you get to the when to act early, this page pops up when there are red flags. So if there are things that you want to talk to the doctor about, for instance. It also pops up a page that takes it to a little note for parents if they do want to talk about things that they have concerns about. So this is really nice. It kind of goes from the things they're not doing yet or the things they have concerns about over to possible red flags. Okay. And then if they say on that other page when to act early, then this pops up. Like this actually pops up on your screen. It's saying it may be time to act. And it may be that you want to talk to your doctor. It also lets them know about early intervention. And then if there is no concern, it just takes you over to the My Summary. So when the parent fills this out, if everything is clicking along, there are no concerns, you don't get this pop-up. But if there are concerns, then you get this pop-up. And it takes you right to the summary that says, by his age, this is what they are typically doing by now, and he's not yet. So let's think about talking to the doctor, and this is the next step. So there is also a summary that happens, and you can pull up for every child, and it goes down each of the developmental areas. Okay. Now, how would that be helpful for us in early intervention? How might you guys use that? If you're playing with this right now, what would be some way that when you're looking at this and you're thinking, this is pretty cool, how could I use this in early intervention? The parent could complete this, yes, and share it with the doctor or the therapist, absolutely. It really gives us a much bigger and broader picture, a more accurate and more thorough picture from the family's perspective. It gives a checklist to show the doctor, right, because you often don't have a lot of time when you're with the doctor and you can fill it out ahead of time, right? And I don't know about you guys, maybe doctor's appointments are different now, but when my kids were little, I had a lot on my mind, and sometimes I didn't always have everything all together when I had my 7 minutes for my appointment with the doctor. But if I had had something like this, I would have had a little bit more together before that time. Excellent. So I mentioned before about the sharing the email you're allowed. The app has the capacity to email the information to someone that the family wants to email it to. They can email it to a child care provider. They can email it to their physician. They can email it to whomever they like to. They can also just show it to the doctor. Here, I filled this out. They don't have to print it out right then. They can just show it to them on the app, which is pretty nice. And then the really nice thing too is this page of tips and activities. For those of you who have ever seen any of our checklists, on the back of those checklists are helpful hints for the next part of your child's life. So if they're 18 months, here's what they're going to do in the next 6 months or 4 months. Those tips and activities have been brought forward into the app. So it tells you what's going to come next at your child's developmental age, or how can you support your child at this point. So if your child is 18 months, here's how you could support their language development. Here's how they could, here's what you can do that supports their physical development. So in thinking about your role in early intervention, how could this tips and activities section of this app be helpful to you? How might you be able to use something like this? Oh yeah, so consider thinking about how this would fit into their IFSP. It gives us ideas to talk with the family. Oh, I like that one, Mary Lou. Think about what their interests are and things that you would want to then think about how to support in their IFSP. Yeah, what do they like to do? Maybe these are some natural next steps of things that they enjoy. Yeah. Maybe they like to play out of doors, and there are some natural next steps for out-of-door play with the child at this age. So, they're just tips and ideas, but they're things to think about. And again, they really are there to help the family think about next steps and activities. So, okay, so the other thing that's really nice up at the very top of the app is a little thing called Milestone's Quick Review. So if you want to just think ahead of what are things that kids at 18 months typically do, and you want to just look at that and kind of check yourself, you can do that. Or if you want to say, what is the kind of what comes next for kids' social development, and I'm going to kind of remind myself of what that is. You can sort them by age, you can sort them by area of development, and you can actually just look at the real checklists themselves. Now, I think this is really handy for early interventionists. So how might you guys put something like this to practice? Where might a developmental check be helpful? So lesson planning, so thinking about your program, like what kind of intervention supports. Yeah, updating progress, absolutely. That's what I was thinking too, and I think you're thinking the same way, Rosemary, like what we're doing for intervention. I was thinking about that piece too of like, we've now been supporting this child and we've been interacting. What has changed developmentally? And this might be a really easy way to do some of that with the family. Okay, so these tools are there. The other things that are in here, if you choose to use them or families choose to use them, the app does have the ability, you can put appointments in here, reminders, notifications. The family could put in when they should have their next well child checkup and whatnot. That's all included in the app as well. So that's kind of the app 101. Are there questions people have about the app itself that I might be able to answer? I do have to tell you I am not an expert about the app. I have been using the app. I've been playing with it. I have loaded, I told you, like I've loaded my children in it and I've been playing with it and interacting with it that way. If you have questions that I can't answer, I am going to the CDC for training in about a month, so I'd be happy to take additional questions you have. But is there anybody else have a big aha at this point from the app if you've played with it a little bit? Before we turn our attention to how we might use it with some certain audiences and then our guests tell us what their ahas were about it? All right, it doesn't look like anybody's typing. Okay, well if you have a question about the app, just type it in the chat and I'll keep an eye out for those. Okay, so here are kind of the high things just to kind of keep in mind of things that as you communicate with families, just to remind them is that just that the app is easy and fun, and again it's the fundamental thing is tracking milestones and acting when you have concerns. It's free. No information is collected about the families. That's a question that we've gotten from people before, so that's an important thing to help families know for sure that no information is collected about them or their children through the app. Nothing will ever be sold because nothing's collected. It does keep information, it helps them in the work that they do in tracking and monitoring their child's development. For healthcare providers, it could be helpful to them as it supports their work that they do in monitoring surveillance as recommended by the AAP. It helps families know what's happening with their children and communicating with them more effectively about that. And it could help them be more effective in sharing their during visits. For early care and education providers, child care providers, I was hoping we could take just a second here to think about how you could, maybe this would be helpful in your work with child care providers because they are such important partners for us in early intervention. How might you think the app could be helpful to you and as you partner with child care providers? How might they find this helpful?